Hey guys, welcome back. I've got another welder here. This is the DP200 from Yeswelder. This will be the last welder review that I do, guys. I'm on the final stretch of all these reviews here. I've already used this little welder in my shop here, and this little machine welds super awesome. This is probably all you will ever need in a small engine shop, guys. It does MIG with the solid wire and gas. It does flux core. It does stick welding, and it will also do TIG welding if you get the torch. And I believe also you can do aluminum welding with this machine here. Now this machine here runs on 220 volts and also 110. I'll be using it on the 220 today. Keep in mind that if you use it on 110, you will have less features available on the machine. For example, less amperage. Here's the stinger for stick welding. You'll get the line for the gas that goes in the rear of the machine right here. I've got a 75-25 mix here from this tank right there. I'll be using the solid MIG wire today to demonstrate this machine. And you will also get this graphene liner that goes inside here. And apparently with this liner, you can weld aluminum. You will also get some tips for the torch and a small tool to remove the parts at the end of your gun here. Here's the ground clamp, and here's the MIG gun. And by the way, guys, this MIG gun feels of really good quality. Now what I want to show you here, guys, is the difference between these two MIG guns over here. This is the Yeswelder MIG gun. This is from my brand name $3,000 machine MIG gun. Now if you both look at this, it's easy to tell which one's built better for a fraction of the price. And here's the front of the machine. Here's where your MIG gun is screwed in. This wire that hangs right here will connect right in here, and the ground clamp is right here. The cables on this machine are like super thick. They're not cheap. And you can see here that there is a port for a pedal for TIG, and I believe this is for a spool gun. And here's where you open up the machine. Again, the door feels of good quality. And you can put a spool in there of up to 10 pounds, 10 or 11 pounds. I've got the 11-pound spool, I believe, in here now. And right here is the drive for the welding wire. It's well built, it's all steel. Now when you get the machine, you will get different wheels here that go under here depending on the size of MIG wire you are using. And if you're using flux cord wire, then you would use the appropriate wheel as well that came with the machine. And I like how you can store them in here. You can store extra tips here for the MIG gun as well. Now the on-off switch is back here. There is a fan that you will hear from time to time. Now this is one of the coolest displays I've ever seen on a welder, and I'll take off the protective film here. It's like super big, easy to use, very user-friendly. So to get started here, if you will be welding steel, there's a selection for steel. You just push over here, and it gives you a sub-menu that you can decide what steel you will be welding, and you turn this knob, and you can select what you will weld. So I'm just going to go back to steel, push this to get back to the main menu. Then with this button here, I can select what setting I want to set here everywhere. I've got 30 thousandths of an inch wire, 80% argon. So I'm going to show you this here, 80% argon, 20% CO2. In reality, it should be 75-25, but this is the closest setting, so I'm going to leave it there. Now for the size of the steel you will be welding, you can adjust that as well. And you can see here the level where it goes to. And you turn this knob again to select your selection. Now to go up to 3/8, you would have to go back and increase the wire size over here to get up to 3/8. So I'm going to start off with 1/8 today. So I'll leave it at 1/8. And then I will go up as I weld thicker stuff. You can weld as thin as 24 gauge on this machine. Right here, 2T, what that's for is when you're MIG welding, if you hold the trigger, it will weld as long as you hold the trigger. As soon as you release the trigger, it will stop welding. On 4T, you just click it once It'll keep welding until you click it again. Personally, I always weld in 2T. I find I've got way better control, but I'm not welding big jobs. So personally, I always keep my machines in 2T. And on this machine here, you can save some settings in the memory. Now, if I turn the knob, it will go down to the bottom here. MIG gun. So if I push here, MIG torch, spool gun, gas check, pulse, advanced, help. Now if you push the home button here, it's going to give you the selection of welding processes. I've got it on MIG. You can go to flux core, TIG, stick, and you can go to settings. You can change a lot of stuff here, language, lightness, mode, preset, contact, about us. Now here's one cool setting here for the mode. You can go from dark to light, and then your panel will be white and bright. I like it on dark, so I'll set it back to dark. And now we're back to the home button. Now this machine here has synergic technology, so once you've got the settings of your steel and the size of your wire, the machine will decide the amps needed for what you're welding. The only setting that I could find that I can do here is set the volts here with this button here. So if I find my welds are too hot, then I would go minus in the volts. If I find that I don't have enough juice or heat, then I would go in the plus, just like that. So I'll leave it at 0 for now. So I've got the machine set up on my Yeswelder cart. It's really handy, by the way. I've got my MIG gas 7525 here, set at about 10 liters per minute, I believe. And what I'll be doing is welding these two pieces of metal here. These are 1/8, these are 5/16, and this is 1/4 inch. Once they're all welded, I'll stop and show you how the welds look. Okay, let's have a look here. This is the first one I did. That was the 1/8 plate. And I must say this machine welds super good. For the price of this machine, the penetration is just really good on this piece here. So that's nice and solid. Here's the 1/4 inch. There was a little more popping on this one. But again, a really nice bead here. Not sure about the penetration, but this is only a few times that I've used this machine here. So as I get used to it, I can make sure I've got better penetration. Here's the 5/16. Again, it welded really well. I probably could have went a bit hotter here to get better penetration because the bead is really thick on top of the steel. But again, I'm really impressed by it. Now the setting on the machine goes up to 3/8, but I have welded up to 1/2 inch with this machine. So even though this machine will only weld up to 1/4 inch with 30,000 7-inch solid wire, I've welded much thicker steel than 1/4 inch on this wire. So when you have a 30,000 7-inch solid MIG wire in the machine, you can only weld up to 1/4 inch. And the way I get around that sometimes to weld thicker steel is I go in here and I set the wire to a higher, thicker wire. So let's say I put it at 35 here, step out of here. Now go to my steel selection, and this should let me go up to 3/8. So I was able to go up to 3/8 from 1/4 inch because I set the wire at 35,000 7-inch, even though I've got the 30,000ths of an inch wire. So that's how you can get around it, and you may have to tweak your volts when you do that. It may not weld as well as it should with the proper settings, but you can actually come here and tweak your volts either up or lower. So if you go thicker with the thinner wire, you might want to raise your volts. That's how I do it. So what I've got here is an auger from a snowblower. I just want to show you how this machine here will come handy in your small engine shop. So this auger has separated from the shaft, which is common, and I've cleaned it up here with a wire wheel. I'm just going to weld that together. I've got the machine set at the 3/16 setting for the steel, and it should work perfectly on this. Okay, I've got it secured here with some welding vice grips. Okay, and here's that weld that will never come apart ever again. And I always paint my welds after to prevent rust. Anyway, that's just one example of how you can use that machine in your small engine shop. And I also do a lot of deck repairs on machines using welders. And you've seen me do some welding repair videos on decks. This machine here, the DP200, in this video would be just perfect to weld decks. And here's some welds I did with stick welding using this machine. It does it pretty good. Here's a 3/4 inch piece of metal. And here's 1/8. And what you want to do here is have your stinger for the rod hooked into the positive port for DC electrode positive, and your ground clamp in this port right here. So in this setting here, you are DC EP, DC electrode positive. If you switch these around, you will be DC electrode negative. I did most of my welding today in this setup here in the positive setting. So this will get you out of a jam, guys. You don't need any gas to do stick welding. So this little machine here actually did the stick welding quite good, I must say. I'm actually quite surprised because for me, stick welding is a little harder than MIG welding. And again, here are the welds from the stick welding with this machine. Anyway, guys, in conclusion here, I would rate this machine here as one of the top 3 of all the welders I've reviewed this year. This is the last welder that I'm reviewing this year, and for quite a while. The reason I reviewed all these welders was to give you options before you go out and buy a machine. And also I wanted to show you guys that you don't have to spend $3,000 for a MIG that will do everything you need in your shop. I do recommend get a cart or make a cart if you do get one. And also get the Argo Shield gas, 75-25, 75 argon, 25 CO2 with the solid MIG welding wire. Your welds will look professional without too much practice. However, you do have to make sure that your metal is super clean before you weld if you're using the gas. And I want to show you guys again how well the cables are built on this machine. This is not a cheap machine. It may be inexpensive to buy, but the quality and for what you will get for the price, it's a good deal. I've got all the info on this machine in the video description. Check it out, and thanks for watching, and have a great day.